Hello and welcome. I'm so excited to have you over, Neil. Not only because you are an awesome sales leader, SDR leader, you are an awesome person to follow. I think we had some climbing anecdotes the last time we spoke, and
Yep.
you're also the host of a fantastic podcast that I could be part of. And now I'm inviting you to my podcast or whatever. So I'm very happy to have you. How are you today, this afternoon? It's your fifth meeting of the day. I hope you're bearing with me.
Thank you so much, Jan. That's a really hard intro to follow. I got to take some notes on that for my podcast. Really appreciate of you and allowing me to join on your show. This is super cool. How am I doing? I'm doing good. Been a busy couple of weeks, doing a lot of different projects, also working on my own podcast. But I'm in a place right now with you, passionate about sales and sales development. So I'm really good. Thank you for asking.
Awesome. That's great. And, following your content, listening to, I think, at least 20 of your podcasts, I think I know what you're passionate about. But Neil, what are you actually passionate about?
What am I passionate about? In the context of sales, I'm passionate about people. And what I mean about people is people that are entering into this industry of tech, sales, and startups for the first time. And the reason for that is because that's how I started my journey in tech sales, as most of us do. And there is the thing that I've heard a lot of times: we've accidentally fallen into sales. I've intently kind of gone into sales. And the reason for that was many years ago, I was really into tech and gadgets. And I remember when the iPhone first came out and I was like telling everybody to buy this thing. And I convinced a whole bunch of people to get it. And I remember one day somebody said to me, "Hey, do you work for Apple? Are you a salesman?" And that's when it kind of tweaked with me. I was like, "Oh, okay. So if I can convince people to buy something that will benefit them, maybe I want to follow this on." But going into that world of tech sales was completely alien to me, Jan. So I had no context, I had no benchmarks to go against, only what the recruiters and the people in that company were saying. And a lot of the time we always ask ourselves a question of, okay, so what does it take? How am I going to get there? What is this going to look out? Am I going to even still have my job? These are all scary things, but I have a firm belief that, you need to do something at least once a day that scares the living hell out of you. And it was a scary journey. And with that in mind, being an SDR manager, working in sales and, coaching, whatever, I see a lot of new people coming through the door. And kind of coming into a tech company, I had that horrible thing of, where a lot of people were talking down to SDRs. Well, they're just there to book meetings. They're kind of very junior people and, they're not earning as much as, say, some of the other people within the business. And I kind of felt like that needs to change. And I don't like that because without SDRs, you have no pipeline. Your company has no lifeline. They are the first face. They are the first voice. They are the first connection. They're the first people guiding these potential new customers into a business and a service. So they have a very important job. They're VIPs, in my opinion, and with the companies that I've worked over the past couple of years, I've taken that mindset and I hope that I've been able to instill it with the people that I've met and helped get into these companies. And yeah, I remember once my first SDR manager, a lady called Kat Vasilikos. She was my SDR manager at Zora. I remember when she took me out for my first get to know each other lunch in the US and Cali, she said, "Neil, I've seen so many great SDRs come on board into tech companies in Silicon Valley that they're now the VPs of sales, marketing, and even their own CEOs of their own companies. And I'm just very happy to have played a part in their career and life and helping them having a stepping stone into tech sales. And I want to emulate that. I want to give that same feeling. So yeah, I'm one of, if not one of the biggest SDR fans that you're probably going to meet. And yeah, I love SDRs and I love sales development."
Awesome. What an answer. And I love this history because that's true. Like there's the sentiment, there's this just being an SDR sentiment. The truth is though that being an SDR will probably set you up for anything in life you want to do. If you look at that. So when was this point when you realized that you are passionate about elevating SDRs? Was it that time when you sat down with this manager, or when we were like, okay, you liked people, you had difficult experience with SDRs, or like being frowned upon or not really appreciate the way it are? Like, when was it like, okay, boom, I need to elevate SDRs?
It's an accumulation of different experiences, I think. The first one was my first ever sales training that I received, where I remember I was learning spin selling, and I went to the trainer. And again, this was a new world to me. So I was very inquisitive. And I was asking the trainer, like, why do we do this in a particular way? Why do we ask these type of questions? Why not do it this way? And their response to me was, I'm the trainer and I get paid to teach and you get paid to listen. And I was just like, okay, I really don't like that. And then I think later on in life, like coaching a lot of new hires. So I was always like that first guy on the ground. New hires would come through the door and managers or, other reps would say, Neil, could you sit with that person and just show them what you do? And seeing them take what I was teaching them, but making it their own. And it's something I have within Happy Selling today. I say, look, yeah, and whatever I'm going to teach you may have worked for me, but it may not work for you. So take the best bits of what you like and then make it your own style. And watching them succeed really brought me like some sort of gratification, because I know a lot of sales and revenue leaders may find this really hard to pill to swallow, but I'm really not motivated by money. I'm motivated by seeing become successful by giving them a helping hand, right? And then later in life, when working for a cool tech company, Showpad, my job was in customer success, and we had a sales tool which was used by sales reps, and my job was to train them how to use it. And every time that Zoom meeting finished on a kickoff call and training call, I'd have them emailing me questions saying like, Neil, we love the tool, but how would you do X? How would you, connect on LinkedIn? How would you write a cold email? What would you do on a discovery call, etc.? And I'd always have the premise of, yeah, and I don't get paid for that, but I'm happy to help you out. But helping those people, like as a one-off, was really fun. And when they respond back to you saying, Neil, I got the meeting, or Neil, they connected, or Neil, we got over this problem we had with them. Thanks a lot for your help. And getting that, how do I put this? It's a bit of like a pat on the back to say thank you for it. That just made me feel happier as a seller and somebody working in the sales profession. So I think an accumulation of those things over the last decade, that's kind of where it made me feel like, okay, the SDRs, I want to help them out. And the reason why is, and a lot of the time I'd come across sales training where it was more geared to the account executives, the closers, right? And being an SDR, sitting in so many trainings, it was great to be. I'm still struggling to have a conversation with my prospect. I'm scared to jump into a discovery call. And, I'd always sit there thinking, well, I'm just going to hand it over to the AE. I'll just do the introduction and just hand it over. And I'd always be connecting with people on LinkedIn, disco call, thinking, do you know what, one feature? So that when I became that salesperson, that was the first thing I did. I reconnected with the people that I used to prospect and say, hey, now I'm expert with you. And that's how I closed my first deal. It was a lead that I had as an SDR. I reconnected as an account executive. And the funny story is, when I became a customer success manager, they were my first client that I onboarded. So I saw the whole journey from SDR to CS. And I think a lot in sales, sometimes we're looking for qualifications, certifications, etc. But it's those experiences which really made me a happy seller to go through. And I want to try and emulate that again for new people that are coming through the door. I don't know if that's been a wild tangent, but that's kind of when I realized.
Awesome. No, I think it's a fantastic answer, and it's true. And it's, when things click and things fall together, I mean, like prospect, discovery, educate, validate, close, success, and then like the circle sort of closes and so forth. So I personally can relate to that. So I think it's an awesome answer, Neil. Like, we say that SDR, or being SDR, can set you up for a lot of things in life, and you can be really be successful in that role, and that's why we should appreciate it and elevate it. What are some of the skills that you have learned that you're applying now when you're not an SDR anymore in your work right now?
All of them. Every skill that I learned as an SDR is what's helping me be successful being like a founder in my own business. So kind of the talk track that I do, like during interviews or onboarding new hires, I give them this expectation that in essence, for those first 12 months, you're doing 4 roles, Jan. So the first one is you're a marketeer. So you're sharing content, case studies, white paper, and you're educating your potential future customers, right? So you're an extension of your CMO in that department. The second one is you are a salesperson. So you're, prospecting, you're reaching out to multiple stakeholders, you're setting up business meetings, you're taking down notes, you're moving them along in a sales process over to your account executive and running really good meetings. The third one is you become a product expert. So as an SDR, you'll constantly be asked questions of how does this integrate? How does this work with our API? How does this fit within our ecosystem? And you have to an extent, become knowledgeable in that. You won't know all of that stuff right at the beginning, but you will know it as you go along because you get asked those questions by prospects, and then you have to go do your homework and learn them, right? And the very last role is you are in essence acting like customer success, because I may be speaking to you today, Jan, as a prospect, but you're not ready to buy or get engaged with us. So I have to be able to nurture you over time, keep a pulse on you, and then reactivate you and bring you back into the discussion when you're doing so. So those 4 attributes is kind of what I took on board of launching my own business. So when I launched Happy Selling a few years ago, I had to do a website, had to do case studies, had to do testimonials, had to figure out, okay, what do SDRs want? And I think the difference that I went into, alluding to my earlier point of all sales trainings were focused on the closers, the model that I designed was I want to start with the SDR, then think about their counterpart as the account executive, how it benefits them, and then how it goes to revenue generation. Because a lot of the time with sales trainings I've seen, it's the opposite way around. We start with revenue, we talk about sales leaders, then we go to sales reps, then we maybe think about the SDRs, right? And as a salesperson, so the thing that I love about being able to do my business is I get to talk to really cool CEOs, right? Because it's normally their SDRs that introduce me. Like I just started a new training project where one of my former students had introduced me to their CEO because they'd been through Happy Selling, met with their CEO, and I get to learn how they run and establish a business, how they've been growing, all the intricacies of, how they've been generating revenue. So as a founder myself, I then can put that into my business and, experiment with it. When it becomes a product expert, so my subject matter is sales development, and I always look, I'm not the best, I'm just speak to a lot of people, so I'm able to absorb and curate a lot of new content that I learn, and then pass that on to the reps that I meet and speak to. And again, similarly with customer success, CRO in this month, and they said, look, we really like Happy Selling, it looks great, but we're just not there yet, because I've educated them to realize they need to do a bit more work before they can start working with me. And similarly, like how you are now running a podcast, I'm now running a separate business unit from Happy Selling training. And I've had to take all those skills that I learned with Happy Selling to then run my company. So if we go back 8 or 9 years ago, when I was first in my tech company's job and kind of what do you want to get out of it? And I said, I want to be a CEO of my own company. And that's the reason why I joined tech sales as well. So yeah, I think every skill that I've learned as an SDR has benefited me today.
Awesome. Thanks, Neil. That's also like, it's so inspiring to hear that you can apply those things, and like the things you learn now, they matter. Right? You take and then take pride in it because they really truly matter. So now that you have been running the podcast and you have established your own business, what have you learned and what patterns have you recognized of those SDRs that are successful in the role that make it?
So I think the biggest successful traits that I've seen from SDRs is the ones that are willing to understand it's not just going to come instantly. They're patient and they know that there is a process and there's time to learn, but they're open to failing, And I think with a lot of leaders out there, they may, really push down on the SDRs that aren't performing or aren't getting the numbers, but it's that spark that I'm looking for. And if you have that burning desire to learn, succeed and fail and try again, it's that resilience within you as well. So you're going to be shut down by prospects on the phone, by email, everything, and not allowing it to get to you personally, which is easier said than done. Yeah, it is. But I think the mindset I used to have when I was younger was anybody that tells me no fueled me to try and get that yes. I was like, well, I'll convince you somehow or I'll get there. I don't care how it takes. If I have to go above your head or I have to go speak to a company or competitor of yours, get them as a customer, and then come back to you and say, hey, Jan, we're now working with your biggest customer. Do you want to have a conversation? Equally, the people that are people, I don't know if that makes sense, but those that can really make a connection with other people, empathize, understand how things are on their side of the world, and great relationship builders. So again, for the last few months, I've been interviewing, I don't know, well over 100 different SDRs for my current client. Yeah, which is mad. But I met some really interesting people. And these people, the ones that really stood out to me is they have that burning passion within them to succeed in life and to try new things out. They have an interest within the business. They understand the model. They're not just looking at it from a product perspective, but they're seeing where this company is going. So for me, when I was an SDR, I wanted to join a hot company that were onto things and going places. And that's how I select my clients at Happy Selling. I don't just work with anyone. I will do my research on your company to see, is this somebody I want to partner with as well? The other things, they're open to feedback and criticism. So a question that I always ask in every interview is, Jan, if you were able to do this interview again, is there anything you'd be able to do different? And I look for the reps that are able to reflect and criticize themselves, but then come back with how they would do it different. And I'm like, okay, that level of self-awareness is really key, because as an SDR or a salesperson, you're going to go through trials and tribulations, and you need to be able to reflect at the end of the day to see how can you improve. And it's something like, again, I've mentioned on the podcast before where, I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for progress. If I can improve by 1% each day by the end of the year, that's a hell of a lot of growth. And that's what keeps me going. And that's what I want to see in people that I speak to and meet to. And ultimately, they don't take life too seriously, because this is a hard job. This is a tough life, and, they have an element of banter to them. They know that, okay, they have to be serious at certain times, but they're just human. I think those are the traits that I've seen.
Awesome. I think that's a pretty solid research bank you have accumulated there. So yeah, thanks for sharing. I think maybe you said it, like the burning fire. I think curiosity is key. Like you said, like you have to be curious, right? And I think that burning fire is the same, like you said, like curiosity. But if you're not curious, then it's like, not really something. And optimism, like you said, like, so awesome. Thank you so much. If you could go back to the first time you started as a rep, what are the things you would have told your younger self?
So that's a very difficult question to answer. And I'm going to preface it by saying I don't really like to go back and change anything, because if I change any element of my history, it would change me as a person in the journey that I've embarked on. But on the other side of the coin, if I had a cool time machine, I could go meet the younger Neil. I think the first thing that I'd say to him is going to be okay, right? Because the level of anxiety and stress that comes through working in sales can be detrimental to your mental health. And there were many a time where I used to sit there in an office where I had a VP next to me, and I was like, okay, am I going to have a job for much longer? Am I going to be able to hit my target? Am I going to be bringing any revenue in? Am I going to successfully be able to run a meeting on my own? And all these things. So if I could go back and say, it's going to be all right, and it's going to be fine. I think another thing that I would say to myself is pay more attention, dude. And what I mean by that is be fully present. Because I have an innate problem where I'm constantly thinking about the future and how things are going to turn out, that sometimes I'd miss what's in front of me. So if it's, learning how to do a new sales technique, if it's being more attentive in the discovery call and listening to what my prospects were actually saying, because a lot of the time I'd get happy ears and I'd hear stuff that wasn't actually being said. And then I'm trying to convince my AE, like, take the meeting, flip the up, like, get it in, So take a bit more time. And ultimately, the other thing is you don't have to have it all figured out. I was constantly thinking about, when am I going to get that promotion? When am I going to get that pay rise? Am I going to be able to afford a house on the salary that I'm on? Am I going to be able to support a family if one day that I have it? Like, how am I going to get there? And I'm constant. And the thing is, it's like, I think I spoke to this about you before, like within our podcast, it's that whole element of, we always want to get from point A to point B as quick as we can. But the problem is, as soon as we get to point B, we're already thinking about point C and how we keep moving. And I'm just like, but there's so much beautiful things happening on in the actual journey itself. It all works out the way it's supposed to in the end. And again, 8 years ago, the Neil that said I want to be like a CEO of my own company had no idea how I was going to do it, but I got there.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd allude to that. Having your own company is big, and I think a lot of people aspire to do that. So you're truly a role model, and the depth of reflection that you just showed there, I think you would hire yourself, or I would at least hire you if I wasn't.
Thank you.
In your team. Prospecting tips. Let's get a bit tactical, let's give those people listening right now some practical advice. Like, where do you think SDRs can improve right now?
Where can SDRs improve on? It's a
maybe
question
improve the most, because like I always speak about the free channels and something, but like what's like.
I think the advice that I give to all SDRs, and it's the advice that I got from the likes of John Barrows, like when I went through their sales training, is be proficient in all channels, right? So again, I've met a lot of SDRs that are really great at emails. I've known SDRs that are killer on the phone. I know other SDRs that are great at social selling and connecting and sharing content on LinkedIn. And for me, when I was an SDR and I'd see those different traits of people, I would take time to sit with them to see how they do their thing, so I could then add it into my arsenal. So if I was ever questioned by somebody, right, go do a call, I could do it. If somebody says, Neil, put a video together on video prospecting, I could do it. Obviously, I'd have my favorites that I want to do, but I always say to SDRs, don't just lean into one channel just because that's where you're successful. Because to be an all-rounded sales professional and adaptable, you need to be able to do them all. So I would say that, where you can improve is like, I'll give you one SDR that you make sure that she sends X amount of video. You make sure she does X amount of LinkedIn touches a day. She makes sure she has enough emails out for the day. And she also adds in the multi-channel killer from my point of view, right? Whereas I may have a rep that just does the email and just does the phone. And we'll ask themselves, like, why is the girl getting so many more meetings? It's because she's having more channels than, say, yourself, right? So where can they improve? By improving on themselves, the things that they should be doing, but just getting better at it by trying all different things out. Because I remember, like, when I was at Zora, I just had a knack for emails and LinkedIn. That's when I generated most of my enterprise ops. But ask that Neil to do a couple of cold calls, you're like, no. I don't need to do calls. Why do I need to do calls? If I'm booking all my meetings, I'm just going to keep doing that. But what I didn't really realize was when the LinkedIn and the emails were stopping and I wasn't getting responses, I was then stuck. I had no other way to generate meetings and I wasn't earning commission. So I was like, right, I need to level up now. I need to do some calls. I need to do some video prospecting. Maybe those cadences that I had in, what was it? It was Salesloft when it first started. Cold Port. I remember when Salesforce first launched and it was this new tool and we stopped using Yes. So I was like, wow, this is magic. But again, I only had like one or two sequences and I said, yeah, these are the ones that get me all my meetings. But I realized I had to then get different personas. I had to go for different industries. I had to understand I had different hierarchies of C-level emails were very different to VP emails and to end user emails as well. So how can they improve? Improve in your craft, just make sure that you're able to execute on all.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's like, I always think about a football player, you need to be able to hit the header, shoot with the left and the right foot, you need to be well-rounded, a well-rounded professional. So
Indeed.
Awesome. And it's hard, like we all have our preferences, we all are good at things, but we have to eat the frog, or whatever it's called, and do the things that we maybe don't like the most in the beginning of the day, and then we have it done, and then it gets easier and easier and easier and easier. But it's difficult. So yeah, thanks for reminding us to do that. You have run through a lot of one-on-ones and have done a lot of managing and a lot of elevating SDRs. What's the perfect one-on-one for you?
Perfect one-on-one for me is a rep that comes prepared. So again, if I'm doing between 4 to 8 one-to-ones in a week, that's 8 hours of my time. And I'm doing operational stuff throughout the day. I'm responding to Slacks. I'm joining leadership meetings. So when I come to that meeting, I want to know the rep knows their numbers, their figures, currently what they're working on, what is their strategy for the week oncoming. So again, this could either be just a discussion, this could just be a meeting agenda, or like I do with my current SDRs, is we have one-to-one templates. And at the beginning of that template, we have like the bullet points of what we discussed in the previous meeting. So when I get onto that call, I want to say, Jan, last week we spoke about building out a new sequence. Last week we spoke about spending more time in the discovery calls and asking more open-ended questions. Where are we at with those, and what has been the outcome from there? Then what I'd like to know is, okay, where are you with your numbers? Because again, I haven't got time to jump into the CRM and look at the dashboard. If you can just put it to me, it just helps me understand where you're at. And if there's anything to do. But equally of them to do is share their highlights of the week. So what successes have come about? What are you proud of? And I like you to list them down on bullet points, but then talk to me about them, talk me through that. And then what I want to know is, okay, so what are your plans for the week? You may say, well, I'm going to do X amount of calls and I'm going to reach out to this person, But then I want to know is, okay, so what's your game plan to get there? I know where you want to get to, but how do you see that coming? And then ultimately, is there anything else that I can do between now and next week to help you out? If you come to this meeting with this information prepared, then it helps me help you, right? I can look at this document maybe 10 minutes before we jump in, or even the night before, if you're able to do it that early. And then I can come to that meeting with tools, tips, advice. Or sometimes it could just be a case of, Jan, it looks like you know what you're doing. I don't really want to interfere with it. Crack on. And when you do need my help, let me know.
Awesome. I think I've been struggling with that because I didn't got the reps to prepare to the degree that I wanted them to prepare. How do you implement that? Like, the advice I've been getting was like, don't take the meeting. If they're not prepared, don't take the meeting.
Yeah. That's a good one, because I've been doing this for the last 6 months, like with my current team, and we've had some new hires. So what used to typically happen was we jump into the meeting, I go into like the shared drive folder, I look for the sheet and it's not filled. And sometimes what I do and ask the rep is to fill it out there and then. And that's a lesson, because we're not going to get down to business until you've completed having it done beforehand.
Yeah.
What I'd ask the rep to do is put a calendar reminder the day before to remind yourself to fill in that document, so that when you meet with Neil, it's ready to rock and roll.
Yeah.
And once you do that a couple of times, then it kind of hits home, all right, this is an important meeting. This is time with my manager. I need to come prepared, because again, I can give you all the advice under the sun and I can tell you what to be doing, but it's what you want to be doing. And I want you to feel more enabled and empowered that you're a CEO of your own territory and time. I can't be here to handhold you the whole time. I need people that are self-sufficient. So if my advice to you is ask your reps to, fill it in. And sometimes the other side of it is, sometimes these sheets and these templates don't work for everyone. So I do have some reps where, we've tried to do the template thing, we've tried to do the sheet, and it's just never filled in. And they just want to have a conversation with me. They just want to vent, or they just want to ask my advice on one or two things. So I'll put the power back in their hands by saying, how do you feel the one-to-one would best work for you? Because everybody's individual. Those that need a bit more structure and guidance and hand-holding, the document's a great place. For those that are kind of more seasoned vets that know what they're doing, they just want to check in, then just use the time for that. So documents, calendar reminders, live and die by your calendar, and then equally ask them, what do they want to get out and how do they want to execute that meeting with you?
Awesome. Now my favorite question of all time. What's the craftiest way you have been prospected? Because you get prospected a lot, Neil.
That's a very, very good question. And I have to say, it's not the craftiest way, but you were the well-crafted way of prospecting.
Thanks,
me.
Man.
So I loved it. I absolutely loved the way that you got in contact with me. So obviously you connected with me on LinkedIn. That's what everybody does. You then sent me a video message. Again, a lot of people do that, but I saw like the happy selling sign and I was just like, okay, he's got my company's name on a board. I'm intrigued, so I'm going to click. And you gave an element of research, what you've been knowing about my podcast, what you know about me. I was like, okay, the guy knows his stuff. And then you kind of ended it on a really good analogy of like wanting to create a spark between us. So you had a lighter in your hand and you sparked it and you lit the flame. And I was like, okay, my man's got my attention now. He's really put the work in. That is what encourages me to reply and get back to you. And yeah, it came into a fruitful discussion, and here we are today, right?
Awesome.
So people that take the time, that really put in, not just a sales pitch or I'm this person and I'm great and I do this and this is the service we provide. You made it about me, and when I see that heart in a prospecting attempt, then I will give 110% back to that person and come back to them. So yeah, you were the most crafted person of prospecting me.
Oh, that's awesome. I think, yeah, thank you so much. It was great. It was very very spontaneous. I was like, oh yeah, do, and then it happened. So yeah, thank you so much. And I love this hard thing because people like to hide behind a script, and it's okay, but you don't have to.
Yeah,
be yourself, and like the script is there to guide you, but then you have to own it and make it your own. And because people will realize this guy's looking at a separate screen, he's reading from something else, they will realize that. And I think that is a tip that I could get, or how I was thinking about you prospecting. I just tried to speak to you and wanted to give you the attention that you deserve for your show. And I didn't really care about myself because I'm just the rep, I'm just an SDR. Cool. Thanks, Neil.
But I'd say
go ahead.
It's just like 3 tips, like exactly what you're saying with like when you're reaching out is, so it's a level of empathy that I think is a key thing for SDRs. So imagine how your prospect will receive that information and how they're going to view it. So making things really clear and easy to understand, removing out the jargon, and knowing that your face is for the first time they're going to see it, you're going to blow their mind. So you want to make a really good impression in those first 30 seconds, right? And you did that. And in terms of script, it's totally fine to have a script. Like I think with certain tools, like you can even put a teleprompter within there. And it's the same way, like I do music, right? I have to write lyrics down on a piece of paper. I have to play the instrumental and I have to practice it a couple of times. But know that if I go into a recording studio reading it, it's going to sound very monotone and there's not going to be passion. And what I find is the more I practice a song, I then don't have to look at the lyric sheet anymore. And I may miss a few words here and there, but that's when I hit the punch and like the punch lines and I give emotion to it. And I'm like, yeah, so that's how I'm going to get down. And if you can like convey that in your videos, that's what people are looking for. And yeah, staying authentic to yourself. But to add on, you're not just an SDR, you are a business professional trying to connect with another business professional. You have a compelling reason as to why you want to talk to them. Your time's not wasted, man. Thanks
for getting that spin back. Was needed. I was waiting for that. Time is running, but I really would like to get your thoughts on what you're currently excited about in the revenue space. Like what do you see changing, and what are you excited about in the space right now in the next years?
What I'm excited about is future people such as yourself. So I think since lockdown, we've heard this whole thing about the Great Resignation. And again, I'm not an expert on this topic per se, but kind of the way that I see it is last year I saw a lot of people coming from different backgrounds, different industries, different jobs, and different careers and entering into tech sales. And with that, they brought a new mindset and a new way of doing things. So my LinkedIn feed is flooded with all these cool new SDRs that are trying out new techniques. And I think the way that Teen Zoe, my first ever CEO that I went to, and the analogy that I can bring from him is, there are established businesses that run the world, like the Barclays Bank of the world, the Capital Ones, ING, all these people that are established. And he says, Neil, you get these really cool startups, and these guys are called the disruptors. They come into the market, they're very small, nobody knows who the hell they are, but they have this effect within the market where they start picking up businesses. Like, again, looking at Salesloft from when they first started to where they are now, they were disruptors back in the day. And you had the companies of like Pardot and Oracle with their marketing systems and tracking, etc. Salesloft just changed the game, dude. And they disrupted these big people. So the way I look at SDRs of today is they're going to be the disruptors of the VPs of sales, the way companies are going to market with prospecting and stuff. And I'm excited to see what they bring in, because as an SDR fan, I'm always trying to better my craft, and what better way to learn from the next gen that are coming through the door.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a cool take to have. I haven't had the time to reflect upon that, but I see it coming as well. It's getting more difficult. The profession is elevated because it's getting more difficult. So we need to be more creative and become our own business owners, and do shows like this. I don't know, connect to, start with social selling, do a podcast like you. So awesome. Like, this is one of the last ones, and then we can pick other topics that we would like to speak about. And I would like to give you the closing word as well, because you deserve it, Neil. How do you find time to focus on the right things?
That's a really good question. So how do I plan? I am a person that lives and dies by my calendar, which may not be for everybody, but unless it's in my calendar, it's not happening or it doesn't exist. And what I have to do, again, I learned from one of my Cornish on my podcast, is Sunday prep and planning. So I'll always look at a week ahead on a Sunday to see what's happening. And a really cool thing, just for the watchers at home, you can see my board. I've got kind of like a to-do list of here, right, of all the things that I need to be doing. And something I started implementing last year was adding an emoji to every task and thing that I'm doing in the day. So if it's to do a business meeting with Happy Selling, I put like a $ against it. If it's doing a coaching and a training session for a bunch of SDRs, then I put a heart against it, because that's what I'm really passionate about. And if I'm doing something for fun, like recording this podcast today, I put a smiley face against it. Hey. So I'm always ensuring that it's drawing me closer to my revenue goals to help me grow my business. It's ensuring that I'm improving my craft and doing what I love doing. And I also add things in which make me happy, and is kind of separate to the world of what I'm doing as work. Because, if you do things that you love doing, then it doesn't really feel like work. And I tried to put that across all aspects of my life. So if I'm going to the gym, it's to improve my health and give me more longevity. If it's meeting up with friends, it's to improve my mental health, reconnect with people, and, switch off from my laptop. If it's writing music, it's helping me increase my creativity in my head. Because I think the really hard thing in sales is sometimes we don't have time to think or breathe, because we're so caught up in doing this. We don't take time for ourselves. So I add these things to my calendar as well. So in the morning, I do my gratitude as to what 10 things that I'm grateful for. I make sure that I put some meditation in just before lunch. And then at the end of the day, I then reflect upon 3 things that I'm grateful for that I got done in that day that really excited me. And by doing that, I learned this from another SDR, being persistently consistent equals results, and helps you become a happier person.
What a way to sum this up. Neil, do you want to say anything else to the audience? You want to add something? Where can people find you? If they enjoyed this, like listening to you.
Oh, thank you so much. Firstly, I just want to say thank you for allowing me to be on your show. I'm a big fan of yours, so this is a privilege for me. That's the first thing. Secondly, for anybody out there, like with me, I want to be that person that new SDRs can talk to and get advice, even if it's before coming into the profession. I spoke to a really cool guy today, Amir, where 6 months ago he was struggling, like where he wanted to go in life and what he wanted to do for work. Had a meeting with him today, and he just said 6 months on, he's smashing it. He's an SDR. He's really happy. And I made some sort of impact on him. Again, I only take a very small piece of that. I want to do that for as many people as I can. And ultimately keep an eye on Jan, because dude, like the content, the advice on prospecting and, helping other SDRs understand new techniques, I freaking love it. And I love your posts. So make sure that you follow him. And if you want to check me out, just check us out on our socials at happyselling.io and just DM me if you've got any questions.
Thank you so much, Neil.